Hello everyone, great to have you on the channel here of MeteoMark Weather. Let's take a look. We got so much to talk about with what's left of Debby, a tropical storm, still packing a punch and becoming an inland heavy rainmaker as well as beach erosion as it will hug the coastline here during the next several days. This system is really going to push a lot of moisture up the East Coast, and we could be talking about a massive heavy rain event from Florida all the way up to Maine. And rainfall totals out of Tropical Storm Debby through the end of this week into the beginning of the weekend could be staggering, with some areas approaching 10, 15, and some areas across parts of eastern Georgia and the Carolinas up to 20 inches. This is going to be heading up the coast, and we could have a very large heavy rain event for the mid-Atlantic and parts of New England. And there's a tropical wave. The rest of the tropics here heating up. Big tropical wave coming right through the Lesser Antilles, Trinidad, Tobago, up to Barbados, Grenada here. This is going to be heading towards the west-northwest for later on this week and weekend. Western and Central Gulf, Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Belize, Yucatan Peninsula, and eventually the Southwestern Gulf. We'll get into all the details and see if this has a chance of development. And here we go with our three-dimensional satellite view of Tropical Storm Debby. You can see, look at all that convection firing. Let's just go out. Look how big this storm is. It's a very large circulation, and that is the concern as this system continues to unravel. Look at these feeder bands. They're still intact. There's a tremendous amount of tropical moisture with this storm, and as it heads back out into the Atlantic off the South Carolina coast, that's where the concern is that it will help re-strengthen this for a time. All right, so as we start off with the European model here over the next couple days, you can see what's going to be happening with Debby. It's going to be moving away from Florida, mainly inland Georgia here into South Carolina, and I'll show you the GFS momentarily. Pretty well agreeing with this, coming back out over the open water as we head through Wednesday morning here. This is 5 a.m., by the way. So look at the trajectory of this storm. This is where we're going to be headed here. So essentially, this storm's going to be heading right up the East Coast, but it's not going to have any place to go anytime quick. And it's probably going to re-strengthen, to, a stronger tropical storm here. It is possible maybe it could reobtain Category 1. Not likely, but it's possibly maybe. Another landfall likely just west of Wilmington here. Now, this is going to push a lot of heavy rain. You can see this is going to head inland across North Carolina as we head on into the 9th. So Friday, yeah, you know what this is setting you up for in the Northeast. We have high pressure retreating up here just southeast of Nova Scotia. We already have energy up here, and that's going to be feeding tropical moisture into this energy. So this is not very good news. As we continue to go on here with our European model run, you can see the core of the heaviest rain heading just west here of where our center of circulation is expected. Still a tropical depression near Delmarva here before heading up towards New York City. But look at this. This is the 10th. You can see Saturday. So the heaviest rain moving off to the northeast here. The only good news here, let me just back this up just a little bit. This is 8 p.m. Friday evening here. We head up through Harrisburg, Philadelphia. The only good news with the European model, it's a little more progressive. You can see the back edge of the precipitation moving in. So hopefully we can retain this model run consistency of accelerating as this thing moves off to the northeast. That would be some great news as this high pressure does seem to want to retreat out here to the southeast. You can see actually grabbing a hold of this trough to the west as well. So you're going to have some enhanced heavy rain here across parts of southeastern Canada as well. So you're right in the crosshairs here. Many of you, this puts millions of people in this crosshairs, and we're going to have look at the rainfall totals here momentarily in a couple minutes. So there it is, and we're going to take a look at the rest of the tropics here momentarily. All right, and I just wanted to show you this rainfall map. This is what we're going to be talking about here. This is a major problem. You see into the yellows here, that's 4 inches. The oranges, we start to get into the 6, 8, 10-inch range, and those darker oranges is 10 to 15. This is all the way up from the southeast into the mid-Atlantic into the northeast. Widespread areas of 4 to 8 inches of rain plus in many areas. And before we continue, don't forget to smash that like button if you love this video. Question or comment down below. I love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed and hit that bell notification, go ahead and do it. That way you're alerted when I come out with one of these videos. Let's continue. So here's a GFS here of Debby. We're going to go over it and see what the similarities and differences are. So here it is. It's cruising north of Jacksonville here towards South Carolina as we head through 2 a.m. on Tuesday morning. That's going to be heading towards the northeast here. Heading out over the open water, the GFS doing something very strange here, hooking to the southwest back towards Georgia. There could be some retrograding going on here. If we take a look just to the east here, we have our big old Bermuda high just off the coast here, influencing. You can see the center, though, way out here. So it's a little bit of a bend in the isobars there, indicating that we have some stronger high pressure trying to block this to the northeast initially as we head throughout Wednesday and Thursday. GFS does something very curious here. This would be some bad news. The European is much more progressive. Of course, the GFS trying to strengthen this high towards the southwest, which would prolong this rainfall back towards Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina. And look how it would funnel it right up the coastline here. Let me just stop this and back this up here. So there it is, retrograding back westward here, with a surge of tropical moisture as we get into Friday and Saturday all the way up here into the northeast. The only good news is the GFS indicates that that high will start to become a bit more to the east, and eventually we're able to push our system out to sea here, which would be some good news. But this would be a much more detrimental situation here toward the southeast. It would still indicate, though, that there would be strong rain bands and moisture making their way all the way up into the mid-Atlantic, into the northeast for Friday and Saturday. So this is something, these trends need to be watched. So we look at our tropical wave here moving through the European model, and I'll show you it on the GFS. There it is, showing up really clearly as we head through the next 24, 36 hours. That heading towards the northwest, nothing too terribly strong at the moment, but there has been some forecast models a little bit to the north here. This model actually going a little bit to the south as well. There it is towards the 7th into the 8th. You can see some showers just south of Jamaica here. Let me just zoom out here so you can get kind of a bird's eye view out here into the Cape Verde Islands. Look at the intertropical convergence zone. We're staying very active out here. So we're going to continue to watch this. This is something that bears watching, especially as we head towards Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The European model really does start to grab onto something here, though, towards the 8th. So this is later on Thursday into Friday. We start to see something try to form here just northeast of Honduras. European model's been fairly consistent with this. And then towards the Yucatan Peninsula as we head towards the 10th. So we could be looking at another tropical storm and then emerging here into the Gulf. So the southwestern Gulf, we're going to have to keep very close watch on as we get into next week, right around the 12th. And you can see that system heading towards eastern Mexico or even southern Texas. I wanted to show you something behind that wave here into the Caribbean. Watch this as we go into the 9th, into the 10th. We got some major activity showing up here across the Northeast Caribbean Islands. Another big series of waves out here into the intertropical convergence zone. So the European model going much more active than the GFS. I'll show you the GFS momentarily out here. But there it is as we continue towards the 11th and the 12th. Look at this big monster wave. Could this actually be another tropical storm in the making? It's quite possible. It's not that far out. You know, a lot can change. But here it is, right in the Eastern Caribbean. We're looking at something that may actually try to develop. It's a little bit further to the north than our current wave. And there it is. It tries to elongate into a big area of low pressure, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, just south of Bermuda here. Definitely got to keep a close watch on this, and it may develop into something. And the intertropical convergence zone looking really interesting out here through the middle of August. And if we take a look at the GFS here of our next system we'll be watching, there it is moving through Trinidad, Tobago out here. We do have some other activity out here by the Cape Verdes here. We're going to watch that very closely as well. And look at this system. It doesn't look all that impressive, but it is going to bring some gusty showers here to Jamaica right around the 8th. So as we get into Thursday here, you can see this GFS run taking it a bit further to the south here and weaker. But it does pinwheel some moisture, and then reconvex here around the Cayman Islands and towards Cancun and the Yucatan Peninsula. So this is a trend we'll have to keep close watch on. The rest of the tropics for your GFS, we're not looking at too much happening, except for the Cape Verde out here, where we could still continue to see lots of tropical wave action coming off the coast. And look at that. We don't see too much in the way of dust showing up here on the GFS model. But look at this. We do have another tropical wave here towards the middle of the month. It's way far out, though, towards the Yucatan Peninsula. All right, so mid-layer dryer analysis here. Thanks to Tropical Tidbits. There is Debby. Yeah, it's pretty much wound up here along the southeast coast or inland at this point, and we will continue to watch this system because it's going to be with us for quite some time here. Let's just put this into motion. You can see that plume of tropical moisture. This is what I'm talking about on the GFS. It's very dangerous to have this much tropical moisture heading towards the northeast, and even the GFS here on this run is actually retrograding that system. So this is not good news. There's some dust out here that will help to preclude some development, but there's our next tropical wave that could become a storm here into the western and northwestern Caribbean and the southwestern Gulf. You can see, though, the GFS has an optimistic turn here towards the end of the forecast period, towards the 11th. It does start to bring in a more progressive front, which kind of pushes Debby further out to sea here. So as we continue in time, there's a lot of dry air out here on the GFS, but a lot of big tropical waves here as well. And if we take a look at our European run here, you can see where Debby is. There it is. A little bit more progressive. It comes, instead of bending it westward into Georgia, it comes off the coast, and European models strengthening this back into a hurricane. I would not be surprised if that does happen, especially heading out over the Gulf Stream a little ways here. But as we head to Thursday into Friday, look at this system moving up just south of Philadelphia by this point. So this would bring some very juicy air here into parts of interior mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. This is concerning. This is Saturday, August 10th. And there it is. Finally, some dry air. Look how progressive this gets, though. That's great news. High pressure is retreating to the southeast. And look at, we could have our next system behind it here as well. So we have a lot of things to watch here as we go through later in August. And you see there's a lot of mid-layer dry air, but there's also a lot of activity out here. So here we are on the GFS model. You can see where the heaviest rain is going to be falling. Very concerning for eastern, southern Georgia, South Carolina here, and North Carolina. And look at parts of the Northeast here as well. This is not very good news. Let's zoom in. As we get into the southeast here, this is really concerning. Here's the GFS model. We're not going to go much further out here beyond Monday of next week, but here it is. Look at this. Some of these totals could be 15 to 20 inches here into eastern Georgia and South Carolina. All right, so with the GFS here across the mid-Atlantic, you can see, yeah, this is just not good news. I'm going to be zooming into the northeast here where look at some of these totals. 3 to 6 inches. But here across Virginia, North Carolina, I do think some of this will fill in, unfortunately. Still showing about 1 to 3 inches here, but I would not be surprised if this fills in time. And here we go with the Northeast here for our GFS. There's that rainfall the next couple days, and then we basically put right on top of it here the enhancement from Debby. So, yeah, we're going to be looking Saturday into early Sunday here. Eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, parts of upstate New York, the Susquehanna River Valley, parts of New England here. This could get a little dangerous for us here. We're talking about 3.5 all the way up to 6.5 inches of rain here. So please stay tuned. This is a widespread event. As we take a look at our European model here, there's our initial shot of rain the next couple days, and there is our enhancement from Debby. Look at this. This is really, really dangerous. European models further west, it's still very progressive, but look at some of the, even back here towards Buffalo, that's crazy. But look at this. Parts of eastern Pennsylvania getting upwards of 6 to 8 inches of rain. Parts of the Catskills, Poconos, New Jersey, that's like 3.5 to 7 inches of rain here in some of these areas into New England. This is very concerning. So we head down into the mid-Atlantic here. Here's our European model. This is what I'm more aligning myself with here with this model. Look at how consistent this is. Just a surge of tropical moisture all the way up through Georgia, the Carolinas, look at this. Some of these totals, 10 to as much as 18 inches. And we still had, 5 to 8 inch totals all the way up here into the mid-Atlantic into parts of the Northeast. Here's where the big problem is. I showed you this on the GFS. Here's the European run. This is just terrible. European even fills this in heavier. With each model run, it seems like we're getting towards 12 to 18 inches of rain in some of these areas as the heaviest localized totals. But don't be surprised if you see those widespread 10 to 15 inch totals all over the place here. So our rainfall totals here, we're going to start off with the Eastern Caribbean this time. There it is. Trinidad, Tobago, Barbados, Grenada. Here we're talking about 40 to 70 millimeters. Most areas getting about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. And then look at that next week towards the 12th and the 13th. We get that next tropical wave moisture surge here into the northeastern Caribbean and western Atlantic. That's where we could see a surge of 60 to 100 millimeters, upwards of 2.5 to 4 inches. As we head into the western Caribbean here, Central America, the Bahamas. Bahamas for the most part in the southern Bahamas staying dry. It's the northern Bahamas you'll see an additional 45 to 70 millimeters, 3/4 to about 1.5 inches. But here it is. Jamaica, you start to see some showers here towards Friday, Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday into Cayman Islands as well, with that tropical wave moving through. And then we surge it here into parts of Central America as well. So Jamaica, you could be seeing upwards of 60 to 90 millimeters here. Good 2, maybe 3 inches. By all said and done into next week. And Cayman Islands, about 40 to 60 millimeters, about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, upwards of 1.5 inches. And as we head into your Tuesday, this is where we're looking at the severe weather. It is going to be right across the Cleveland, Toledo, and Pittsburgh area. Please, I'm going to show you the future radar. And day 3, we see more of a marginal risk here across parts of the mid-Atlantic, but I would not be surprised if we increase this, especially with a tropical system that will be landfalling once again. All right, so taking a look at our future radar here, our NAM 3 kilometer. Let's see what's going on here. Of course, we got, I don't want to leave you out here in the Northeast. I've had to contend with these. Yeah, a lot of severe weather, especially southern tier of New York, Northeast Pennsylvania. Lots of cells here, even into portions of New England here as we head through midnight. So the good news is this is more of a heavy rain event threat rather than severe weather as this heads into the Catskills, Poconos, parts of the Hudson Valley, western New England here. We have a mesoscale convective complex over here in Wisconsin, but of course the big show is down here into portions of Florida and Georgia. Look at this. Yeah, this is going to be one heck of a heavy rain producer eventually as we head through 2 p.m. on Tuesday here. We're looking at those feeder bands continuing across Florida here. Look at this. And then as we continue through, there it is, midnight on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Look at this. This storm has not moved much. And this is really bad news. The only good news is during the night, some of these feeder bands die down south of it, but they just regenerate during the day here across the Bahamas. And then look at this. As we head towards Charleston, South Carolina, this is 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So this system pinwheeling to the north, spreading tremendous amounts of rain inland here into North Carolina. You can see towards 9 p.m. as we get into Wednesday night, Wednesday evening. And there it is, early Thursday morning. Look at this. Yeah, this system becoming a massive calm ahead here. And unfortunately, this is going to be heading towards the northeast. Now let's back it up here to the mid-Atlantic. Let's see what your weather's doing out here. Yeah, as we head throughout your Tuesday, we do get some clearing behind all that. That's some great news. As we get towards 6 p.m., though, look what's happening here into the northern Ohio, southern Pennsylvania area. So here we go. We're going to have a series of thunderstorms move through. Some of these could pack a punch, severe weather potential. So watch out for that. We're going to be watching very closely parts of New Jersey as well. Some of these storms could get pretty strong here towards Pittsburgh, 9 p.m. So let's just back this up. We'll show you the time frame, northern Ohio to western Pennsylvania and southern Pennsylvania. So there it is, 3 p.m., 4 p.m. So there we're getting into the Cleveland area around 6 or 7. Look how that line just pushes through really quickly. Pittsburgh by 10 p.m., and then Harrisburg and Scranton and Binghamton by 3 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So we're going to fill in the northeast here. You see this red shaded? That is essentially what I showed you earlier. That is the cone of Debby. So unfortunately, you need the rain in many parts of the northeast. Unfortunately, this is going to be saturating us up here over the next 24 to 72 hours with additional rain. And look what's coming to the south here, this big, massive slug of moisture with Debby. All right, let's pick up where our future radar left off. You can see as we head throughout the 7th and the 8th, Wednesday into Thursday, there is the big story. I showed you this on the tropical loop. There's not too much else to talk about until you get into the plains here. You could see some severe weather continuing to bake a bit out west here. But as we continue in time, as I said before, this is the European model. Yeah, it's the big show here is in the east. We will have some severe weather dropping across the west central plains here, so please stay tuned for that as well. That bears watching, but it does start to weaken. But the big story is going to be here into the northeast. We could have a couple landfalls here if this system really holds together. The big story here from the 10th into the 11th, look how quickly this moves. This is very optimistic here for the Euro. Hopefully this holds true. I'm kind of leaning more towards the Euro and the GFS, but it's not to say the GFS is wrong. It still could hold true. And if that holds true, we could see a lot further rainfall totals here into the southeast, and we'll have to watch up here into the northeast as well. But please stay tuned. Things can drastically change 5 days out. And then this area of low pressure kind of takes over an upper level low, and that moves out to the northeast here. And we have our next system moving into the central states, and that dives here across the southeast. And let's take a look at your Canadian weather. What is going on up here in Canada? Unfortunately, those wildfires out here. You will have a little bit of rainfall here. Unfortunately, some of this will be dry lightning, which is not what you need. But look at Southeast Canada really drying out here. Unfortunately, the smoke situation, you'll have to watch out for that in potential as things get drier. Please, hopefully everybody's watching out with their lighting, everything like that. Don't want to make any more wildfires than we need. But the dry situation, you can see how dry it is. The only areas we head through Thursday into Friday is across southern Manitoba and Ontario. We'll get some rainfall here, but unfortunately, look at most of Canada is building in with high pressure, and that's not really what you need at all. You need more like this. Look at southeastern Canada. This actually is some good news. I know you don't want to see this if you're vacationing. But as I said before, Canada desperately needs all the rain they can get. And look at this. Southern Ontario and Quebec, yes, that is a welcome sight. Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, some beneficial rain. I'll get into those rainfall amounts momentarily. So yes, please be patient here. Canada desperately needs the rain. I know some of you have sent messages to me, made some comments, and thank you for those because it really brought to my attention. The wildfires are far from over, even from last year. So here it is. That low just camps out behind that what's left of Debby, which is great news. Unfortunately, almost lost you there. It's heading out here towards the 13th and the 14th, and we get a big old area of high pressure building in behind it. So here we go with our European model for Canada. Unfortunately, with the exception, it seems like we are going to get some decent rainfall totals. Some sporadic areas here across the south central provinces, but look at southeastern Canada. This is where you could get 60 to as much as 110 millimeters of rainfall, especially New Brunswick, southern parts of Quebec and Ontario, and heading on into Nova Scotia and Newfoundland here. We could see upwards of those, 3.5, 4, 5, some areas close to 6 inches. That's some great news. And if we take a look at the Eastern Pacific, and I'll take you to the Western Pacific, we got a lot of storms. Fabio, Tropical Storm Fabio, Amelia out here. We could be talking about, quite a few storms out here. The one common theme is, though, you don't need to spend too much time on these. These are all fish storms. So let's go out to the Western Pacific here. What is going on out here? Well, we have a couple tropical waves. You can see them bouncing around out here north of the Philippines, northeast, east of Taiwan. The good news is it doesn't look like there's any major development going on, at least in the next 3 to 5 days. This area southeast of Japan, it kind of tries to strengthen a bit, but it's kind of at the tail end of a frontal boundary. We have another wave out here east of it, but we don't really have too much in the way of activity going on here. So we'll watch it. There's another low that pops up. Look at the Philippines, though. You're going to be inundated with this monsoon moisture. Look at Vietnam here, South China. You're really filling in. Lots of tropical rains just filling in here, but nothing actually developing through the middle of the month until we get to about, look at this, there's a big wave here around the Philippines, and look at south of Japan here. We may be watching for the potential of a tropical storm here, and if we just go into motion the last few frames here, yeah, we could, if these trends hold true, northern Philippines and Japan, we could be talking about 2 separate tropical systems. And before we continue, don't go anywhere. I got plenty more weather for you. Take a look at these awesome maps from my affiliate. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. So as we get into temperatures here, yeah, Tuesday, there's the heat here in the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys. Exception of Cleveland there, holding on to 81 on the northern side of the front here. But look at those 70s percolating in here as we get into Wednesday. Look at that. Yeah, that's a lot of 70s here, breaking out across the Northeast, but triple-digit heat here building across Texas and Oklahoma. 90s all the way up here, the west side of the Appalachians. As we get into Thursday here, look at this. We've got some big cold pools of air, and this is with the clouds and the rainfall here across parts of the east. Look at this. We're really cooling off that heat. 70s in a large area of real estate here. 90s and 100s towards the Gulf Coast as we head into Saturday. Even more cooler shots here. 70s across a large section of real estate. And as we head into Sunday here, look at these 70s. But we're just building this heat here, especially across the southern plains. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, Binghamton, Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley of New York, and Pennsylvania. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have a chance of showers and thunderstorms each day. Tuesday night, we could see upwards of an inch to an inch. So that's not good news. We've already seen a lot of rain across our forecast area, but there will be some scattered showers and thunderstorms each day. So watch out for that. Temperatures cooling to the 70s, but look at Friday into Saturday here. This is where we could see that tropical moisture, especially later Friday and Friday night with Debby. We could be talking about upwards of 2 to as much as 5 inches in some portions of our forecast area. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark. Also, Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, SuperThanks. You can smash that SuperThanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone, share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.